This is the It's Time to Refresh podcast with Brad Riffresh, the podcast about life, music, traveling, shit, literal shit that is, and weird and wacky stories with Brad, and a range of guests from the planet Earth. Feel free to share the pod with your pals, your mom, your neighbor's dog, or even your shrink. It's all fun. You can follow our Facebook group called It's Time to Refresh Community, or It's Time to Refresh on Instagram. Write into the pod, ask questions, and share your stories. Enjoy the pod.
Hey kid, what time is that?
It's time to refresh.
You all right? How we doing? Just want to take 2 minutes of your time before we start this week's podcast to tell you about our Patreon. Patreon is a tool that we're using to help the podcast grow, give you better content, and, well, as I said, just let the podcast grow. So we've got 3 tiers. The first tier, there's only 20 of these spaces available, and it's £1 for life, and that's for It's Time to Refresh Originals. So if you've tuned in from day one and you want to join the cause, you can sign up for £1. Just follow the link in the description. We've got the standard Patreon, which you get access to bonus episodes, some exclusive content, Patreon specials, which we'll be recording, and early access to all future episodes. So you'll be getting them on a Tuesday instead of a Friday, which I think is fucking amazing for £3. That's less than a coffee. And then we've got our legend status VIP Patreons, which is £10. And that gets you tickets to all my gigs, and it will get you free entry to any It's Time to Refresh associated events, gigs in the future. So that's a little hint of what's coming up in the future. If you do like the podcast, then please share it with your mates. We are trying to grow this little thing we've got going. We've got some amazing guests coming up in the future as well, and we want this to go bigger and better. So sign up at Patreon at patreon.com/It's Time to Refresh. Thank you. Enjoy the episode. Back once again with another podcast. This is episode, I'm not even sure anymore, if I'm honest with you. On this one, we've got the General himself, the biggest export out of Dewsbury since Shannon Matthews. No, that's right, isn't it? It's Dave Gray, General Bounce. I don't know whether you're known as General Bounce more or Dave Gray.
I'm probably more known as General Bounce to most people, but it just depends. If you've got me on Facebook, you'll just know me as Dave Gray, the massive troll.
So how you doing, mate? All right?
I'm good, mate. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm not too bad. It's been a bit of a weird drive down, but yeah, it's sound. We're in Leeds at the minute.
Yeah.
This has been a bucket list episode because, well, anybody who's listening because you're on, and they've seen your name, and they know it's going to be an interesting take on everything.
We'll see.
The drive over here with you has been eye-opening, to say the least.
We're coming over the countryside.
Yeah.
Over the Pennines.
So what was happening last week? Was Tidy Weekend of last week?
It was Tidy Weekend of the week before last, yeah.
Right. So how was that for you? All right.
It was actually really good. Like I say, I don't know if anybody's been to any of the previous ones, but the last two were a bit gash. Right. And obviously this one I was actually just going as a clubber because I was booked for the last one, but not for this one. But I was just going as a clubber, and it's like there was loads of new people there who'd never been to them before, but there was also a lot of the older people who came were the ones who just came for a good time. It wasn't any of the maungy ones who used to turn it for and just sit in the chalets all the time. So that kind of made it even better because everybody who was there was up for it. And it was nice to see loads of people who'd never been to them before getting to experience it and just having a really good time. Because the truth is, there is nothing like a Tidy Weekender. I think the only thing that's ever come close for and especially people in the bouncing was the first Clubland Weekender we did a few years ago.
Yeah, the one at Pontins.
That's I mean, it was obviously Tidy Weekenders were at Pontins as well. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I went to a Clubland Weekender with Phil, right, everyone who was there on the Sunday just looked like they were dying. And whereas it's like the tidy weekend, what tends to happen is everybody goes for it on the Friday.
Yeah.
It's a bit more subdued on the Saturday, right? But then on the Sunday, everyone's on it again.
Yeah.
So it's like there is nothing like a tidy weekender, really.
There's a few famous moments, isn't there? Like in a tidy weekender, so everyone knows the Friday night, everyone's going for it. It's a heavy sesh, and then the Sunday, it's always very well known for like what's the last tune that gets played at the weekender, and like so a lot of the bigger names going on the Sunday as well.
Well, the best thing about the weekenders now is because obviously the old weekenders, it's one of the things that everybody moaned about at some of the previous weekenders were why Paul Glasby Kick It wasn't the last track, and it's just like, for God's sake, get over it. That track's 15 years old. I understand it's got memories to people, right? But there's so many other tracks that you could play as the last track at work, and it's like this.
Create new memories as well. Like, don't become a nostalgia act. If you want to stay current and fresh, what about people could refer to you as I don't know, say the latest. What's the latest? Tidy release. I don't know.
I don't know what the latest Tidy release is, but it's like the DJs that we had on for the last one this time. We had Ben Stevens playing in the second arena, and then obviously that finished half an hour early, so everyone piles into the main arena. And Rob Tissera was playing the last set. And to be honest, I think Andy Farley was on holiday, so that's why he wasn't on this year.
Yeah.
Right, but when we've had him or Rob Tissera on it, finished last at a weekend, it's been amazing. Right, so it's like they're the perfect sort of DJs to put on last. So Rob Tissera playing last this year was really good.
Yeah, but that's what I mean though. Like who's to say that Rob, because Rob's got a really good ear for tunes as well.
Robbie's the second coming of Jesus as far as I'm concerned. Robbie's my absolute idol.
But like he's got this thing, this way with picking tunes that I think's really good. Not many people have got it. There's only a handful of people who can read a crowd like he does it. And I've found that like someone like him could play a last tune and it could be the right last tune.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be Kick It. It could be something else.
It could, right. Rob, this is the thing that I've always said about Rob, because I think this has come down to why, you know, when people moan about DJs who've been getting booked for years, still headlining events.
Yeah.
I think, right, people like Rob has been going, right, since day one of the rave scene. And I don't know if everyone knows the story about it. A lot of people in the bounce scene probably won't have heard the story, but Rob was actually DJing at an event. My brother was at in 1990.
Yeah.
And what happened was, this was in the days of illegal raves, obviously. I think it was called Love Decade. It was
I know the story,
yeah. And basically, the police turned up to raid it, and Rob got on the mic and told everybody to barricade the doors. Right, so what happened was that was classed as inciting a riot, and he was sent to the prison for 3 months for it.
Yeah, I knew that. Like, it was it's intense, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is the thing. It's like he's been around since those days. He's been constantly working through those days. I used to listen to him religiously when I was a little kid, right? And it's like he's played everything. He's played house music, he's played breaks, he's played trance, he's played hard house. And what he does is he brings all those influences together in everything he plays, right? So he's someone who's cut his teeth on just playing good music, which is why a lot of new DJs struggle to get recognised, because they've been in the mindset of just playing one genre and playing for an hour at a time.
Yeah, and pigeonholed themselves into a...
Yeah, and it's kind of not their fault, really. It's just like it's just that's tends to be the way things have gone, because
it's generational though. Because when Rob first came along, it was everything was brand new and nothing was. This is jungle. This is house. This is and then the next generation was sub-genre. This is trance. This is this, and then the next generation is this is this is hard trance. This is melodic trance. This is progressive.
This is melodic techno. This is tech house.
So now you have events that's dedicated to that one sub-genre, and that's where you find people are pigeonholed, and you like they could headline that one event, but outside of that, what are they good for? You know?
And this is the thing. It's like that's how I started DJing, really. because when I started DJing, I've been DJing 21 years this year, from 26th of August. Right, I've been DJing in clubs 21 years. I remember my first ever gig, like it's yesterday.
We will get into that in a minute. We'll just sort of rhyming off at the minute.
But yeah, that's the thing is that I've grown up with that whole thing of like having to play a full night to myself and being able to play through genres, and that's the way I've learnt to do it. And like I said, Bob Tissera is my freaking hero, man. So it's like I've learnt a lot from that guy over years.
Right. So yeah, we've talked about that. I want to get into the beginning of Dave Gray. I over the years of listening to your mixes and stuff like that, I obviously know you've got a wide taste in music, and you've got your sort of your ears for everything. I think you're what, like you described as Rob. You seem to just be like a picker of good music over. I'm a very good hard house DJ. I'm a very good bounce DJ.
Yeah.
Like in a nice way, you're a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
When it comes to it, because you could pull out a good, like I listen to the void mixes you used to do, and it would be like you'd pick that right house tunes, and then or if you play a hard house, you play it's just the way it is, mate. Like some people have got it, some people haven't. Like you could play a set of hard house tunes better than somebody who's solely just a hard house DJ. Like take that as you would. But
I do actually see what you mean there, because it's like a lot of people who are just hard house DJs will just play that one particular sound. Because the difference is that hard house is quite a broad. It's quite a broad genre. It's like I've always said, like especially in the last 10 years. Well, maybe not so much for the last 2 or 3 years, but especially like sort of like 2008 to the 2015, 16ish. It was almost a genre that reminded me of. It was like what clubs used to be like 20 years ago, but 10 BPM faster, right? Because it's like you used to go to a club, say 2000, right? You'd go all night, you'd get house, you'd just one room, you'd get house, you'd get a bit of trance, you'd get a bit of bouncy stuff, you'd get a bit harder stuff.
And it progressively moves on through the night.
It just progressively built up through the night. And hard house, at one point, it was a really sort of broad genre where you had the funky hard house stuff, like sort of stuff Dave Jackson, Digital Mafia, right? Because he was doing a lot of like bassline influence stuff.
Yeah.
And then you'd have like the hard trance, you'd have the really banging dirty hard house. It's all like BK Badass and stuff like that. But all that kind of sound, the old hard beat sound, and it's just like that. It was almost like you could play a full night of hard house and you wouldn't have noticed, but it was all hard house if you'd have just gone as a clubber. Yeah. If you get me, you'd have noticed it was a bit faster than normal, but you wouldn't have been able to go, oh, this is all hard house then.
I want to say something about, we're on the lines of that. I always thought there'd be, maybe it's still yet to come, mind, but with Digital Mafia's sound, I always found that that's something that could accidentally go big, because it's very appealing to, say, like a Radio 1, or I always thought it was just that one thing away from.
It was almost ahead of his time, really, I think, because I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of like tech house producers, like if you look at some of the stuff that's coming out on Trick, for example, like Patrick Toppin's
very similar.
Like, was one of you and McVicker's tracks that I was playing in my sets like about a year or so ago, but it's actually made 140 BPM and literally sounds like an old Club Edge track. Right, but it's marked as tech house. So it's like, and Dave was doing stuff like that, like 5, 6, 7 years ago. Yep. But it was at that speed, right? But obviously because it's marked hard house, and a lot of people who were looking for that stuff on download stores, especially back then, are looking for the banging stuff, because the truth is it's on DJs who buy music, and most of the DJs who buy music are bedroom DJs because everyone else gets promos. Right, so it's like the bedroom DJs are looking for the full on peak time stuff all the time. Yeah, and at that time it's like streaming hadn't really took off with like underground genres. So
I found in about 2015ish. I found that my label was always very reliant on DJ sales, whereas on the flip side, from about 2019 till now, streaming is the
you have to push the streaming side now as well, like because at the end of the day, that's where your money is. Yeah. right? No average person like clubber is buying music unless they're buying an album, right? In which case they're probably just buying a USB from somewhere, right? And the rest of them are just streaming it. So it's like that's where the money is. And they've basically had to monetize the listeners because people aren't buying music anymore, which is the best way of doing it. But because of the way streaming works, is a lot of it's not sort of genre led. It's not really label led either. It's just led by artists and what people like. Right. So it's like what you're finding now, especially in the last couple of years, is a lot of clubbers don't care about the genre anymore. I don't know if you've noticed all these techno DJs on Instagram literally playing things. There was one that BK sent me a video of, and it was a techno DJ playing a donk track at Boiler Room, and I'm sure it sounded like one of Kenny's productions. Actually, it's like.
Fantastic.
It's like, and that's good, and that's how he's like BK's got big in the techno scene because people were playing his older tracks. I was watching videos like techno. It was on the Techno Germany Instagram, and they're playing one of Dina Watson's tracks, and they even had the track. I thought, well, I ever heard that track ID before? And it's like, then I looked at the track ID, it said Dina Watson, Naughty But Nice. Was like. Wow.
I might have seen that video, you know.
Yeah, the one where the woman comes running out of Five Guys.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's just fun seeing videos like that because it shows people as well that, especially in a soul genre like hard house, where
there's a scene outside of that circle. That's what it is.
And I've always said this, like the hard house scene biggest problem is kind of that. It's become boxed in itself. But a lot of the people who like hard house don't really listen to anything else, and a lot of them haven't really paid attention to what's going on outside the scene. So that's why you're getting a lot of people making hard house tracks that sound like they were made 20 years ago. Because that's the sound they know, and they haven't seen how music has evolved outside of it. So hard house almost sounds like something that's irrelevant to everything else, where it's like now, because you've now got a new generation of clubbers who aren't really getting involved in particular genres, right? What you find is
I like that tune. I like
that.
Yeah,
they're just picking tracks, and finding tracks like, for example, Dina's track or some of BK's old tracks, and I'm sure I've seen a couple of the new Vicious Circle ones getting played by techno DJs. It's just DJs thinking, oh, I like that, I'll play it.
Yeah.
And what's happening is it's showing the rest of the hard house scene, look, there is a world outside of the hard house scene where your music is being appreciated.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably encouraging a lot of people to keep going with it, to be fair.
Excellent. Before we get into your story, I want to ask you, what's your opinion on the current state of hard house? I'm not state makes it sound bad, but do you think that there's a resurgence, or do you think there's going to be another wave of it being in the mainstream, or?
I don't think hard house or any other underground genre outside of the sort of what you call mainstream house music now is probably going to have a commercial resurgence, right? But hard house, it's a bit of a weird one because I'm just trying to think. It's getting a new audience.
Yeah.
It's clearly getting a new audience because that's why a lot of the techno DJs and things are playing it.
Yeah.
And also, like I say, the weekend had a load of new people who've never been to them before, who've only been into hard house like the last few years, or have come back to it after so many years. Right, so there is potential for it to be successful again. It's just that I think any sort of underground genre now, it's never gonna be a full-time career for anybody anymore.
Yeah.
Right, it's gonna be popular, but I think people just need to appreciate the fact that, like, as long as the events are good, as long as you've got a decent enough crowd attending, then that's all that matters these days, because there's so much stuff going on in music, and also with hard house, we haven't got the benefit of what, say, something like bounce or bassline has. Right, because what you find about bounce scene is it's a popular scene concentrated in one area of the country. Right, it's obviously most of the northwest, and then you've got like bassline, which is mostly sort of like London or Birmingham.
Yeah.
Right, hard house is it's little pockets dotted about
all over the
everywhere.
country.
Like there's the Leeds bit, there's the Birmingham bit, there's the London bit.
There's the Workington bit.
There's the Workington bit, yeah.
The Workington, there's a scene in Workington where it's just these handful of DJs, and it's just
Ireland as well. It's like it's got a little pocket following in Ireland, but this is the thing, because all these people are so far away from it. Australia as well. All these people are so far away from each other. We're never going to be able to attend all the events. Like the bounce scene can wait. It's like fair enough. I appreciate there's not always certain events that still don't do as well as others in the bounce scene or in the bassline scene, but there's enough of an audience in one place for them to be able to put nights like Sopranos on, Restricted Forest, Beach ID, all those sort of events, and it's all concentrated in one place. So it's like you've got a centre point for everyone, if you get me.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I talked about this on Ben Rushin's episode. It's I find it hard to get into that scene because it's. Or I did find it hard to get into that scene because, as you say, it's like boxed off, like a bit like the hard house scene. It's because I'm not in that area. I'm not everyone's first choice for getting booked as a DJ, which can be a little bit frustrating. But
and the other thing is, I think in the bounce scene as well, it's like people tend to book the people who know each other. It's like the only bounce events that really book me are BTID and when Pier on the Pier's on, and like then I've played for some at Donny Warehouse. It's like those are the only sort of like proper bounce events that really book me, and I'm quite happy with that because it's like I like I say I play everything, and I think that's one thing a lot of DJs have got to realise as well. If you want to actually do this for a job, you need to have a broad range of music.
Yes.
Because it's like I think Rob Kane does it full time now, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he has been doing for a few years, but he's pretty much playing out every night, and he's playing house music. He's playing something that's popular enough to get him regular work, and he still does the odd event like BTID where he comes and plays his classics and things, right? So the only other DJs I know other than that who work full time are the ones who play a bit of everything and then do a little bits of maybe producing or engineering for people on the side.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. It's just the scene now. There isn't big sales and big streaming. There's money to be made because I've noticed, there is money to be made. Like, I'm sure we've talked about this online, but like or a conversation we've had at some point.
There's money to be made, but the daft thing is, it's like even where music makes a lot of money, it's like I've seen people like who've just literally done something like they've done like ambient sounds to put on Spotify and made like sleep noises, like
a washing machine or rain or something. Like that,
right. They've done like things like that, and they've made an absolute fortune off that more than they have off music. Yeah, it's just I think this is the thing that people have to accept. If you're gonna do music and it's something you really want to do, you have to think outside the box. You have to be able to play a decent range of music. You've got to be able to, and especially if you with DJing, because obviously I was DJing pretty much full time for a few years until COVID happened. And even then, it's like I wasn't making as much money as what I am now from doing less gigs and running the label. Yeah. Right, so...
I'm sure we talked back in 2021, we talked about it, but I was saying about how much money we made in that second quarter of 2020. Can you remember that? Like when COVID
when COVID happened.
I like this, and I don't mind talking figures or anything like that. And it goes out publicly because I don't care, to be honest with you. It's just a thing. But for me, I remember getting the royalty things back for the label, and it was 5 times what we were making.
Yeah. I do remember when COVID happened, and this is one of the things I did warn people to pay attention to as well. The ones who weren't making a lot of money, who thought they were never going to make any money, I told them, like, put your back into it now while you can. And also, I said to the ones who did suddenly start making money, just remember that a lot of that was down to the fact that people couldn't go anywhere. Right, so, and... Also, I don't think people really thought about this, even though people got furloughed and were probably getting paid less than what they would not be normally. They weren't paying to go to work. weren't able to pay to go to events or anything. So we were just, if anything, we were just having naughty house parties.
Loads of people were decorating the houses and shit because they had all this disposable income.
Yeah, loads of people did the house and everything, but also it's like we saw people suddenly go out and buy a controller because like the ones who were doing live streams or anything like that were just getting gigs. A lot of them started live streaming, so that's why you suddenly had a shortage of controllers. Yeah. I think at one point it was like 6 months waiting list to get
well, there's loads now, isn't there? Loads for sale on Facebook Marketplace because they've had the fun during lockdown. Yeah,
but that was the thing. It's like loads of people started doing that, and then they also started having to buy music. So at one point, I remember the sales for Cheeky Tracks were double what they normally were, and our download sales were good anyway. But then also, we had loads more streaming, and this is the 2 years before that I'd really been plugging that.
Yeah.
Right, so, and making sure everything got monetized. So I was lucky in the case that I'd built it up enough to a point that when streaming went through the roof during COVID, it got to a point where I could earn enough money off it and to live off, because I thought, crap, I'm going to have to go and get an old job again for the first time in years. Yeah. And the daft thing is like the only job I've ever successfully held down in my whole adult life is this. So
you made for it then.
Yeah, so it was like, I just thought, look, I need to find a way to keep this going. But one thing I did do was me and Amber D got together literally the weekend everything got locked down, and we were just like, no, there's no point stressing over this. Like everyone else was like, where's the next gig coming from, what we're going to do? It's like, and we just thought, look, there was actually loads of help available at the time for a start, right? But people didn't realise, not from the government, from like music charities and things, and they were just throwing money at people. So we just applied for all that, and then we'd spent the next 3 months like, right, this is what we need to do to keep this going and build it up. And then, but with the label in particular, it's that I'd already built up enough to a point where once we got into the COVID situation, it started generating a lot, and all I had to do was find a way to make sure once everything opened up again, I was going to maintain it. And somehow I've just about managed it so far. We'll see how we go with the cost of living crisis. But I think I'm all right for the time being. I'm just going to have to keep finding new ways to keep it going, really.
Right, we sort of went off on a bit of a tangent there.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. We want to get into the Dave Gray story. It's interesting what we're talking about, by the way. But obviously, we'll get into this. I always find it fascinating when people talk about how they grow from situations where you have to really think on your feet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just like, because that you call it a time crisis, isn't it? Like it's like, how can we? You're obviously sitting there brainstorming ideas, and it's like, how can we do this? Anyway, so where did it all start for Dave?
Right, okay, so 26th of August 2001 was my first club gig. And
no, I don't want to know that. I want to know before that.
Oh, before that, it's not really anything exciting, really. It's just like I'd always been into music from. This is probably most interesting to me. I'd been into music from a really, really young age, like especially dance music, because my brother was going to a legal raves when he's 10 years older than me. Yeah. He was going to a legal raves when he was like 15, I was like 5. Yeah. And for some reason, I just really got into acid house and stuff like that when I was 5.
That's fine. No, you just, because at the time, it's cool to be getting into it because, my brother listens to this, so it must be cool music. Like, that's the way you look at it, isn't it, as a young kid?
Well, I don't know. I just liked it. And so it's like my favourite tune when I was like 6 years old was a guy called Gerald Voodoo Ray, which is just like a really weird tech house tune, really. Not tech house, acid house tune. Yeah. And you listen to it now and it's like, and I do wonder to myself, why did I like this when I was 6? Because I like it now, but
as a
why?
6-year-old,
it's like we call it acid with the guy going, acid in the background. It's like that was a bit of a novelty record anyway, but I really like stuff like that. And as I grew up, I was really into dance music.
So when getting into dance music, can you remember your first like CD single you bought, or tape, or anything like that?
My first record that I got was actually my mum bought me. It was Black Box Ride on Time.
Class tune.
Right, so that was she actually bought me like a couple like when I was really young. I think the first two that she actually bought me, which were just like kiddie records, were Paul McCartney, the Frog Song from Rupert, and also Roland Rat Rapping. Roland Rat. I had the Roland Rat album because I was a really big Roland Rat fan. But the first like proper like record I got was Black Box Ride on Time, and then the first one I bought after that was oh god, I can't remember what it was now. I'm sure it was like Wakefield Saturday Night or something daft like that, I think.
So at what point was it a turning point for you? For like, so when was it like, right, I like music, I want to be a DJ? Like,
I couldn't really say, I just sort of fell into it. I was going to the local youth club when I was like 14, 15, and they obviously had a set of decks there, and we just sort of got on it and messed about and started doing the little disco. But it's like, I used to... After that, I just started ticking my tunes with me. And I've always had this thing, like even since then, like, I'm going to make you dance to music that you don't think you like. Right, so take a lot of like clubby records there, but a load of little kids at the youth club would be like, what's this?
Yeah.
But I wasn't bothered, I just did it anyway. and then it was just like after that point, I started doing just the odd like house party for my mates and things, and I got one of those. Do you remember those really crappy home mix, acoustic solutions home mix things?
I had one of them.
I had two of them. Did you learn to mix on it?
No, because I had belt drives first. I had Newmark belt drives that were absolutely fucking terrible.
Yeah, the ones that actually feel like toys.
Yeah,
right.
And then after that, I got the home mix one, and I thought.
Did you get the home mix CD unit though?
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing with that was it was just clearly made as a kids thing, really.
Yeah, because you couldn't, when you press play, there was a delay on the play. It wasn't like
there was a delay. You couldn't cue it up.
Yeah.
And also the way the pitch control worked, I remember it just jumped
weird.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
You couldn't go like any in between. But I learned to mix on that, right? It's like, 'cause what I used to do is there was no gains on it either, so you had to like mess about with volume, and then it's like you just had to wiggle the pitch control to keep it in time.
Well, when I got that, in my head I thought we've leveled right up here because I've gone because I had like, for instance, I had because when I was listening to CD packs and stuff, obviously I'm a bit younger than you. I was listening to the CD packs. I was listening to say like the latest Bad Behaviour mix or something like that at the time. Or Alex K. But I only had like Alex K records. I had some Clubhead stuff. I had loads of trance.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get the latest Bad Behaviour tune or out like that. Like obviously being new and stuff. So when I got that, I thought it proper changed for me because I was like, well, I can just download the thing. And then I was putting the other thing. I was like, hey, I'm a real DJ now.
We all did it. We all did. But it's like also time was when I did that was a stall on G's Market that used to sell like CD singles, and the guy who ran the store was obviously like a DJ who was on a promo list because he used to sell loads of promo CDs for like £2. But some of them, like, he obviously didn't know what it was. Mainly all the dance stuff that he wasn't going to play, right? So I got loads of tunes long before they came out on CD single for like £2. And not only that, because it was a CD single, it was a promo, so it wasn't counted with any music sales. It had like every single remix on it, so you got like eight remixes instead of like 2 radio edits and an extended mix.
Exactly, yeah.
Right, so I was buying loads of that, and it's just like I just used to buy stuff based on like if it was on a certain label or whatever before I'd even heard it, and I ended up with this collection of really good stuff. I just thought, no one's hearing these tunes. I need people to hear them, and I just, as soon as I turned 18, I just started posting like mixtapes out to pubs and clubs in Dewsbury, because back then you had this one thing that you don't have now that you had then was every town centre had a nightclub, or maybe even 2.
So what year is this? Like when were you 18?
I turned 18 in 2001.
Right.
So like 6 months. It's like obviously 6-7 months later.
What were you playing at this point? I know you've always played a wide range of stuff, but what were you focusing on?
I wasn't really focusing on anything particular. I was just playing stuff I liked, but I knew at the time, right? Obviously, a lot of the stuff that was big in the town centre stuff was all old school or bassline,
right?
Or speed garage, as they called it originally, and then it was just a case of when I actually started getting gigs, I'd start playing what was
suited,
suited the place. My first gig was at a place called TP Woods in Dewsbury on like I said, 26th of August 2001. It was a DJ competition, and that's where I won a residency. And do you know why I won the residency? No one else turned up.
So you're actually the best and the worst.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like when I actually got the job, it's like it wasn't disheartening as such. It was just like, okay, we'll just roll with it then. And it's like, and looking back, I suppose at the time, it's like they wouldn't have given me the job if they thought it was. If I'd turned up and just been completely shit.
Yeah.
Right then. I wouldn't have got the job because why would they employ a shit DJ?
So how long were you playing for in this comp? Like, I know because you only won there. Did you end up playing all night or something?
Well, I was meant to be playing like the first 2 hours and I ended up playing like the whole night because no one else came.
Right. It is what it is there.
So, but because of that, it's like I got to like just go through my whole CD collection and see what worked. And
was there many in?
But there wasn't many in at the start, but it was a Sunday night, so it's like it was bank holiday as well, so it did get quite busy later on.
What was the club?
It was called TP Woods, and it was mainly sort of the Dewsbury for a lot of people was where you went before you went to Batley, Bradford Road, which is where the Frontier was,
right?
Which was a legendary venue in Batley. It's basically the Phoenix Nights type place. But everybody went because it had been there God knows how many years, and it was one of those where they'd start off like playing like shitty pop records, then we'd have a turn on. We'd have some like tribute act to like Shirley Bassey or whoever, and then we had this weird light show where we used to play the Star Wars theme tune, right? And then everybody who was pissed would just start running around the dance floor pretending to be spaceships, and then they'd actually start banging out some decent tunes for a bit, and then the last half hour it'd be like. They'd start playing things like DJ Otzi, Hey Baby, and then have a bit of an erection section at the end for everybody to get off with a 10 to 2.
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah, that sounds like a decent night out, that, to be fair.
Exactly right. Oh, God, it was the worst place ever. But it's just one of them where you found yourself going because a lot of your friends went, and it's like, I remember the last time I went now, was just like, it was my birthday, it was 26th birthday. The first time I'd been was my 16th birthday. And I just thought, please don't let me end up in here on my birthday again. And I ended up getting taken there. I ended up getting really drunk. But they were just playing all the same party tunes that we played 10 years
when you were
before.
16.
Yeah, and then sort of 10 to 2, I found myself like pissed up on the dance floor singing along to Don't Stop Believing. And then I came out and just like, I've had a shit night out, mate.
Right, so you've done your first gig. You've experienced nightlife in some random places. At what point did you get into the club scene? I know you're playing in clubs, but when were you into like? What were you into first? Were you into bounce? Were you into hard house? What was
I was into. When I say I was into everything, I was literally into everything. But the first sort of like proper clubbing was actually when I was like 16. I went to a Leeds Love Parade, which, if I don't know if you've ever heard about the Leeds Love Parade.
Nah, go on.
Right, basically, right. It was the big. I think it was the biggest rave the country's ever seen. Radio 1 put it on because obviously, if you ever heard of the Love Parade in Germany, which they don't do anymore because I think there was some like big accident happened at the last one. Right, but that was like a legendary sort of free party in Germany. Was it? Yeah, it was. And then what happened was Radio 1 decided to do the road in Leeds, and I remember when I went because my mum knew I wanted to go, but at the time she's like, "You're not old enough to go clubbing," and all this. Right. So
I had that experience. As well.
Told her I was going shopping. I went in the scruffiest clothes I had. Right, I had these proper shitty combats on and this Hong Kong Phooey long sleeve t-shirt, and I went there, and honestly, it was just like this massive stage at the front. I think there was 200,000 people there.
Wow!
And they had all these floats going around, like the original Love Parade, where they'd have like different music on each one and different brands.
Yeah. And
honestly, there's barely any videos of it on YouTube as well, which is really kind of upsetting because obviously everyone goes, "Oh well, best thing about the night is there's no evidence of like." It's like, no. I wish there was evidence of that one because it was people wouldn't believe it if you told about it now. Yeah. But it's like if you had all these different. We had one playing trance, you had one playing hard house. We had a Dave Pearce dance anthems truck because obviously it was Radio 1.
Yeah.
And I just remember I got completely smashed there, and when I came home, it's like my mum was still up, and it's like I walked in, I had a rave whistle around my neck and everything, so it was quite obvious I'd been. She's going, "So you've been to Love Parade then?" I was like, no. And then she goes, it's all right, I've seen you on the news. And it's like, right, and then she put a recording of Calendar News, where because it was covered by every like news channel in the country at the time, especially obviously the local ones. And there was a video of where just filmed the trucks going past, and just saw like the Dave Pearce, Dan Sanford's truck going past me, going. It's like okay, and so and then it's
Have
like.
you still got the tape?
No, I wish I had.
Yeah,
I wish I had, because that was incredible. It's like
Great memory to have, isn't it?
yeah, and this is like because it was a free party. Like we weren't even bothered about how old people were. There were people there with like little kids dressed. They'd took the kids and got the kids dressed in like rave outfits and stuff. It was crazy. It's just like, but there's honestly there's barely any evidence of it on the internet.
Quality.
But then after that, I went to Gatecrasher and a couple of other places in Sheffield.
Yeah.
Because when I was underage, I kind of went through the point of I'm not going to go to the shitty clubs in town if I'm going to risk getting turned away. I'm going to risk getting turned away for somewhere decent.
Right. Okay.
And then once I got into actually DJing, I was mainly playing sort of what used to be called bounce, but it was just hard house, like trance, speed garage, and a bit of house music.
Yeah.
So I was just playing whatever I thought worked at the time, and then eventually my first proper like underground gig, shall I say, was an event called Shock in Wakefield, which had a bounce room.
Right.
So I ended up becoming a resident for them, and because they realised I could also play like hard house, well, they put me on in the main room a few times.
Right.
And to be fair, it was pretty dead, the event, but that was how I got into doing those sort of events, and from there I just worked my way up.
Right. So at what point did you think that it sort of started working for you? Like, when did you start? I've talked about this before, but there's the leveling up process. Now you level up without, and something tells you like, oh, things are the wheels are moving now. The wheels are in motion.
I can't really put my finger on anything in particular. I just started getting more well known online more than anything. Oops, what you doing? Breaking everything. Right, I started getting more well known online, and then it's like I started playing things like, because obviously I ran Merseystyle for a while years ago, and we started doing the sort of two bouncy versus Merseystyle thing where I ended up playing down Foo Bar in Southport, which was an absolute dump. I'm sure John Neal will tell you all about that one.
Yeah.
And then I just went through a phase when I was sort of 2010 where I was thinking I was getting a bit old for it. And also, I'd not really planned on doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
And I was just starting to be in a bit of a hard place where I was thinking, do I want to keep going with this? And then I just got booked for to play in the Cheeky Tracks room at Rave On.
Yeah.
Which was the guys who used to run Cheeky Tracks before me, Ian and Andy, with Cheeky Boys.
Yeah.
It's like they asked me to play for them. And then they ended up making me one of their sort of residents for that room.
Right.
And then we were focusing on the label. They asked me to go do some tracks. And at the time, we were getting a load of new artists on, but we weren't really getting anybody who, apart from sort of Josh Butler, when he was doing his Mr. Bounce stuff. And
very good stuff, by the way.
Yeah, his stuff was really good.
Yeah.
And then you had Audox, who was just sort of, it wasn't quite 100%, but he was getting good enough to release stuff at the time. Because this was at the point when there was a lot of bad music being released, so somebody who was just half decent could.
So was it 2010 you got involved with Cheeky? Is that when it was?
Yeah, it was September 2010. That's when I started playing for them. And what I discovered was at the time, because even though I'd been in the hard house scene before that, I'd drifted away from it to focus on bounce for a bit. And then and I think this was at the time when bounce had pretty much had just flatlined, like 2010. And I just thought, I'm not really getting anywhere doing this anymore. But I still liked the music. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not really... And I started getting back into hard house as well. I was just kind of like trying to think what I wanted to do. Yeah. And then when I got booked to play at Rave On, I realised all the people who I'd grown up with and seen were still there. Like Joe Longbottom was starting to get known as a DJ. Yeah. And me and him pretty much started at the same time. Me and Dave Jackson and Joe Longbottom, we pretty much started at the same time. Yeah. Like, but also it's like we'd been on all the same lineups up until about 2007.
Yeah.
And then I drifted away and went back, and they were still there, but we were DJing under different names.
Yeah.
So it's like, but at that point I just thought, yeah, this is where I want to be. I'm back with my people. That's what more than anything. I just felt like I was back with my friends, and because it was like nothing had changed. We were just all like, so whereas in the bounce scene, it's like it always felt like I'd struggled to get taken seriously.
Do you feel a bit like an outsider sort of thing as well?
In the bounce scene, yeah, but mainly because of where I lived. And the daft thing is, once I started getting booked for hard house events again and decided I was gonna focus on that group of people, the bounce scene started. Like I played at the Pier in the last year it was open, and because Martin booked me for it, and it was, and some of the bounce nights started paying attention to me again. So I do feel like a bit of an outsider, but I've never felt like I'm not involved in it at all, or I'm being shut out. I've just felt like I've kind of made myself an outsider, and I'm also an outsider because of where I live.
Yeah.
So that was the only thing with that, really. But from there, that's where my career sort of took off, because then I had to kind of push myself to be taken seriously in the hard house scene.
Right. Before we get on to that, I want to ask you, where did the General Bounce name came from?
At the time, it's like when I started DJing, obviously my name's David Gray.
Yeah.
The singer, David Gray, had just took off, and it was just like
slightly more talented than you.
And also the fact that it's just it's a completely different thing. I couldn't have that name on a flyer because I don't want old grannies coming to a gig thinking some guy does that with his head, when he's singing, is going to be played instead. Right, so I was trying to think of a DJ name, and my friend Steve, he said, well, what sort of stuff do you play? And I said, well, sort of general bouncy shit. And he said, general bounce. So I was just like, okay. And at the time, there was kind of a bit of an in thing for people to have silly DJ names, like Joe Longbottom was Have a Go Joe.
Yeah.
Digital Mafia was Domestic Dave.
Yeah.
So,
it makes sense. Yeah.
Right, so it kind of fitted in at the time, and then it just stuck, and now I can't get away from it, so...
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? It's not the worst name to have.
It's especially at the time. A lot of people said that's actually quite a clever name, because it sounds like you could have just been someone in the army, but also you're just someone who plays general bouncy music.
Yeah, I mean, you're not like DJ Tampon or anything like that. Like I've heard some bad DJ names,
Have you seen the Bang Face lineups?
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it?
The Bang, I love Perished Gussets. That's one of my favourite DJ names, and I've actually DJed with some of the Bang Face events in Bradford and stuff, like DJ Budgie Smuggler, Earthworm Jim, SpongeBob Squarewave.
One of my favourite ones was DJ Fred West, and it was.
And South Yorkshire Mick Hucknall, that was a good one. Well, Ben Suff Donk, he's one of those guys.
Yeah, he is. Oh, yeah, Ben Suff Donk. Mm-hmm. Right, so let's get into the cheeky tracks thing. What happened? Like, because obviously there was the two cheeky boys. Like, did they just say "fuck it, I'm out"? Or
the weird thing is, this is what I'm saying. It's really hard to explain how things have happened for me in the scene, because it's almost like they've just happened, and they were kind of meant to be. But it's like at the time, to be fair, when I got asked to get involved with the label by those guys, I'd also been.
So was that as an artist, or
it was as an artist?
Right.
And it's just like at the time, to be honest, I'd actually been thinking to myself, I'd love to start a label, because I knew loads of really good producers. Like I knew Phil Groove Control, I knew at the time Sonic Bounce. Dave Later, he was doing loads of good stuff, and there's a few other people as well. Like Craig Bass Force, he'd been making loads of decent. I'd pretty much showed him how to produce to an extent.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a technical producer or anything like that. I can't engineer my own stuff, but I can show people how to structure a track.
Yeah.
And it's like, and at the time I was thinking to myself, these people need a bigger audience, and I used to play all their stuff. Right. So when the Cheeky Boys were kind of looking for decent new artists, anyone I found who I thought was good enough, who was actually a lot better than a lot of the guys I had at the time.
Yeah.
Where I was like, listen to these guys. And over time, I just ended up like finding a lot of the decent new music for them.
Yeah.
And like the first sort of really big hits the label had were people I'd just found online. And then over time, because they were sort of drifting in and out of the scene anyway, because we were both really busy with work, and then we took up fishing. And over time, it was just like they just like left me to do a lot of the work, and eventually we just said, look, right, this is your thing now. We'll leave you to get on with it.
Do you still keep in contact with them at all? Are they still?
Yeah, to an extent. It's like I actually saw them at the Weekender, and that was the first time I'd seen them properly in a long time. It's like, and they actually said like we left this label in the right hands.
Yeah, their baby's growing into something.
It's still there. Right, I'll always say it's still their baby. Right, they created it. I made it basically. And when I finally took it over properly, it's like at the time that was when a lot of producers like Phil were getting really good. Charlie Bosch as well. He got really good.
I think at this point I'd started to hear about you about 2011 roughly. I seen the General Bounce thing, and then I seen Cheeky Tracks, and roughly there or thereabouts 2011.
Yeah, it's like that was a time when a lot of people really got to know me because, like I say, like I can't. People will probably not believe me when I say this, but I never really had a lot of belief in myself. It's like I've always just done what I thought was right.
Yeah.
And it's like in the hard house scene, I remember like Sam Townend. I've known Sam a very long time. I've known him like since back in the day when I first started going to hard house nights.
Yeah.
And at the time, he was like pretty much running rave on with Irish Dave, and he was still working for Tidy full time. And I remember him saying to me, he said, "Look, you'd be taken more seriously if you changed your DJ name." And at the time, I was just like, "Yeah, but this is what everyone knows me as now. I'll be just starting again." It's like, it's not like I've come into the hard house scene and started again, like a lot of people did. It's like, I've just come back into it and you all knew me anyway. Right, so I just said, look, I'm not changing my name just to get taken seriously by you guys, because that's not the sort of person I am. And I've always kind of, that's something I've always held on to, like what he said to me, because after that, it was like, I actually have a bit of respect, but a bit more respect for you, the fact that you won't back down. Because I remember him saying to me at the time, he's saying, look, the problem with like doing this full time, it's all consuming, and you have to start doing things you don't necessarily want to do. You have to be nice to people you don't necessarily like. And
that's where I'm going wrong.
It
just clicked in my head.
But it's not that. It's like, I think more of it. You do have to be nice.
Professional relationship.
Yeah, you have to have a professional relationship. You have to have a business head on you. And the one thing I've always said is I've never had a business head on me. I've just ended up doing this out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right, and this is why I always have respect for people like Kenty and all that, because obviously he went out and he knew what he wanted from it. He went out and did it.
Yeah.
Right, so it's like, and obviously he wasn't bothered about necessarily upsetting people on wages. He had his goal and he wanted to get there, which is fine. It's like, but it's like I've always been like, I never saw it as a career, because it never really been one for me. I worked full time for most of the time I was DJing, right? So when I actually got to a point where people like Sam started really taking me seriously, when I played a couple of times, and said, "No, you're actually really good." Just like, that's like, I feel better about this now.
Definitely, I see what you mean, where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So, what was the first sort of big release you had on Cheeky where you'd taken the reins fully? Did you have an idea in the direction you wanted to go? Because I remember 2012 Cheeky's not like what it is now with regards to style.
But the direction I always wanted to take it, even like back when the Cheeky Boys were still running, it was at the time there wasn't really a label like what the labels we'd grown up with, like say Positiva, Manifesto, all those sort of labels. All the labels had literally gone in the direction of, right, this is the sound we're releasing and this is the sound we're focusing on. We're not putting anything else out.
Yeah.
Right, so I was like, no, we just want a label that releases good quality dance music. Yeah. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's good and as long as it fits in with the overall theme of the label. Because it's like, I said, it just needs to be fun, uplifting,
Yeah, because I've heard you release sort of like slower BPM pumping house stuff, and then I've heard you release some of the higher end energy hard house stuff, the bounce.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of hard house labels won't touch bounce, for instance. If it's got a donk in it, they'll.
Oh yeah, and
then at the same time, there's a lot of bounce labels. If you've got a Hoover in, they won't touch it. So, but whereas you were a bit of an all rounder.
It's basically, if I like it, I'll sign it.
Yeah.
Like, unless it's something that's really not gonna fit in with the sound of the label. Like I've had a few trance tracks that people have sent me, which have actually been really good.
Yeah.
But I've gone, look, this isn't right. As much as I like this isn't right for me. And what I've done with those tracks, I've pointed them in the direction of somebody who will take it.
Yeah, and it's the right direction for the track. Yeah.
Whereas it's like, in most cases, as long as I like it, I'll release it.
Yeah. At what point, at what year was it? Did you realise that this is starting to grow legs?
I think it was just when people a lot of, I think one of the main people who promoted the label in the early days was Callie Gage. She played loads of our stuff.
Yeah.
And then Amber started playing a lot of our stuff.
Yeah.
Right, but she didn't pick up on a lot of it till later on.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think it was main people were sort of like Andy Whitby when he was still playing hard dance.
Right.
Right, he was playing a lot of it on his podcasts. He was then you had, like I say, Callie Gage, Roddy Style played a few of them.
Yeah.
And
I rate Roddy massively.
yeah, like, well, he's an amazing. Well, he's Somner now, isn't he? Like he's always been an amazing producer. And it's like, and I just thought these are the people I want paying attention to the label, and then some with the bounce releases, obviously, people like Daz Birchall was a big support. Ricky Gray has always supported a lot of our stuff, and I just thought, and John Neal in particular, he's not only played a lot of our stuff, he played a lot of the hard house tracks as well.
Yeah.
And Nicky B as well, he was another one.
You're naming off all the people who I'm like, yeah, same. It's the same with me. If I send John a tune, send Nicky a tune, if I send like even Daz as well, send them tunes. They're the first people to get back to me and say, "This is me, I'm playing this," or "This isn't really for me, but I can appreciate."
It's like even with like people like some of the other bounce DJs, it's like Cheese was playing a lot of the like Venkman stuff at one point. Yeah. It's like I remember hearing his mixes. Obviously, he's played them a lot faster than they were made, but it's like that's the thing. It's like Johnny even said to me a while back. He said, "Look, some of these hard house tracks he said we were made at like 138, so I'm banging at 150."
Well, to be fair, I played back to back with Cheese. Maybe 2014, maybe. I can't remember. Maybe even 2013. And I remember I was playing a bounce tune, and he was playing some of like Total Control stuff, so it was like quite bouncy. And I played the same of the bounce tune, and then he brought in a Venkman tune, and I was just like, "Oh, hey."
Yeah. And this thing, it's like it was when people, because like I said, this is what I always set out to do. I wanted people to play stuff I wouldn't necessarily like normally, and that's what I wanted people to hear in clubs, and I just thought, yes, this is what I want. I'm getting somewhere. So
who were some of the artists who were vital to the thing? Because when I think Cheeky, them sort of times, I know Digital Mafia did a lot of stuff for you. Venkman, there was just like a few artists who floated in the label that were just.
There's been phases of different artists, like Elevate was one. He was one who got all the, because his stuff at the time, it was hard house, but it had the hard dancey bits that Andy Whitby's like the dubstep drops in, like sort of the early 2010. Right, he'd have like the dubstep drops in them, but there wouldn't be gratuitous, because a lot of the problem with that sort of sound was it was just gratuitous and not really went anywhere.
Yeah.
And then. So his stuff got big, and then it was some of Charlie Bosch's stuff. Yeah. Venkman was another one. His stuff got played quite a lot. Yeah. Ross Thompson, the Mega Man tracks especially, like Wobbly Head, stuff like that.
I played Wobbly Head in my latest mix.
Wobbly Head's a great track.
Great tune. It's class. I like the Mega Man tune. What is it? Is it
the hook?
The hook. Yeah. I hammered that tune, and like in bounce sets as well. It's not necessarily a bounce tune, is it?
Yeah, because it's got that vocally, it works. Like the thing about people like Ross is he used to go to the pier. He used to
Yeah.
love a lot of the BCD stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, and this is what you'll find about a lot of hard house producers, and even some of the bounce producers, they like a lot of stuff that you wouldn't have thought they'd liked.
Yeah.
Like even in the bounce scene now, you're finding a lot of the certain people like Scott Farrimond,
Yeah.
Catchy, and a couple of other people are picking up on
Hard house bits,
hard house tracks. Like Scott Farrimond's done like 3 or 4 different like remakes of hard house tracks. Like he did Wizard Inspiration, which as soon as I heard it turned out, I was just like, I'm signing that. Because that was the thing about that track was that was one of those tracks that I always thought because me and Phil back in the day, we used to do like donk edits of hard house tracks.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I remember hearing that one. And to be fair, we did do a donk edit of that track last year with Jamie and Justin. And at the time, I said that I was waiting for somebody to do that. And then obviously Scott went and did it and completely remade it. I was just like, yes, thank you.
You went through a bit of a phase as well with cheeky tracks that you were being cheeky and signing like vocal stuff and stuff like everyone does it. It's naughty, yeah. But then you really did start to change it, and like, is that when you knew it was getting bigger?
The main reason I started doing it because at the time I was never really 100% comfortable with doing it, because the thing is, if you get pulled right for a bootleg, for all you know, it's like, especially if you've had a full back catalogue of them,
yeah.
right, for all you know, the whole label could get taken down. And especially in the streaming age, it's like tunes can literally just get big out of nowhere.
It is right, like TikTok does it, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
TikTok does it. Like I think we've had the first sort of viral hard house tune on TikTok because like Kid Dynamo Love So Deep. Like all of a sudden it started getting plays out of nowhere. It was a big track anyway with a lot of the hard house DJs, but also I just noticed all of a sudden there was loads of comments on the SoundCloud and on the YouTube channel saying TikTok brought me here. I was like, eh. And then I went on TikTok and there was loads of people who had done videos with that track.
Class.
Right, but so it's like, and that's the sort of tune you wouldn't expect to get big like that.
Yeah.
Right, so but it was long before then as well. I just thought, you know what, I need to start reining it in with these bootlegs. And I even spoke to Ian Redmond as well, and he said a lot of the problem with said you could really do something big with this label, but you just need to stop releasing bootlegs. At least get stuff resung.
Yeah.
Right, and because the label had started making money at that point, I thought, yeah, at this point I can encourage people to do it, because I think that was a lot of the problem. People didn't want to spend money and invest in the tracks because
you don't make much back.
They don't make much back. Right.
Because the first tune I released with you was mine and Digit Matthews' tune, I'm Free. But obviously that's a naughty.
Well, that wasn't that a Cascada vocal or something?
No, that was, I can't remember what it was for. It wasn't Cascada, I know that. But what I mean is, like, we shouldn't have really released it, but obviously.
At the time, it was just one of the things that literally every label was doing it, because this was before the days of YouTube monetization as well.
It was, yeah.
Like, so it's like no one was making money out of music then.
Yeah, it was literally DJs sales that you were based
you're having to rely on DJ sales, and this because I think the first ones who really picked up on stream were obviously like the commercial house acts, right? But even then, it's like you didn't have the YouTube monetization thing, and now you've got that whole monetization where if you release a bootleg now, you can't monetize it on YouTube because it'll just get flagged as the original track, right? So now it's like I've really reined in the bootlegs because it's just not worth it.
It's a better image as well. Like
it gives the label a better image because it makes you look more professional.
Right.
And it's like, to be fair, a lot of the major labels, they're signing bootlegs and just getting them resung or whatever. But at the same time, they're more likely to sign something from a smaller label if it's all ready to go.
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
That's the main thing with that is like, I just want think bigger.
Yeah. So I want to get into some Dave Gray party stories. So you're renowned for a good party. You are, aren't you?
Yeah.
So I want to get into the Void thing. You took a residency on there, and obviously I've heard some of the stories of, like, it's a pretty wild place, isn't it? Like.
Well, that was something else that just came about by chance as well, because I was playing for a couple of guys down there at a bounce night in the gay village anyway, called Bounce Therapy, and they'd started that back up at Void because Void was originally, people might know it as Morning Glory years ago. It was basically a bounce night that used to be on during the morning on a Sunday that went on till 1 o'clock. But then when the new owners took it over, they turned it into more of a housey place, and I just went. I think it was on the Saturday nights when we didn't have anything on to do, like Danny and Daz, who had the bounce night on. They'd let them have that on there. But then Danny was a resident for the Void after hours, and he was going away to Ibiza for a couple of months. So he asked me if I wanted to do it, but told me I'd have to play house music. And then they just kept me on because the main thing was Phil got involved as well. We were playing the closing set like 7 in the morning till 10.
Class.
Right, so
that would suit me to do one though.
Well, the thing is, it's like it was a really good opportunity for me because I got to play a lot of the house stuff that I liked. Yeah. And also because it was the last set, right, I could always play what I wanted. A lot of the guys down there obviously like bounce. Yeah. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna do my thing, like sort of build it up from playing house music and then start banging it out a bit. And then I just ended up staying there for 6 years. I shut the doors on the place because it's like when the date shut down was my birthday, and I was the last person on that weekend, right? So it was just like I got to close the doors on the place, and I think at the time, I'd been the longest running person there.
Mental, it's mental, like, but so you've played a big variation of events over the years, like I can remember. I think the first time I seen you play, did you play Sanctuary in Blackpool? Does that ring a bell?
Yes, it was Sanctuary versus Frequency. Right. It's Sanctuary versus Frequency, and because obviously I ran Merseyside, and a lot of the Sanctuary heads used to go on Time to Come Alive. Yeah, they had a Merseyside versus Time to Come Alive room, and I played back to back with RJ. Yeah. Right, so that was the time I played there, and also I played for Sanctuary a few years after that when it was on a really old Maxime's, because what was it called, Cube or something?
Cube, like that. Yeah.
So I played from them, but yeah, that was 2009. I remember that night. Yeah. When I played for Sanctuary versus Frequency, because it's really funny because it was at Halo in Warrington. It was at Halo, that's where it was, and I just remember my mum told me a story like a couple of years before where she'd been to see one of those weird medium types, and been told that they could see her son walking down a red carpet and doing for some big music event. And when I got to, I just thought, yeah, whatever. But then when I got to Halo, it's like we had a red carpet for the DJs. It was just like I remember walking past this big queue thinking, I don't feel comfortable doing this. And my mates were in and just like went to bounce and said, can my mates come in? We said, yeah, but they'll have to come down this side, like the side of the carpet. And it's like walking down, just going, fuck you. And then it's like, response from the next stage. Remember that story you told me about our medium said I'd be walking down a red carpet and I'd be a musician? It's just like, yeah, it happened last night.
So what's your memorable hard house nights that you've played?
Like, oh God, loads. Because this is the thing, it's like a lot of the best events I've played at have been hard house nights. Yeah. The main ones would be the 2 Tidy Weekenders that I've played at.
Were they messy?
Yeah.
Were you playing them messy, or were you being a bit of a pro, or like playing them and get messy?
Right. Well, I'll just explain from the start. Right. A lot of people have said this. They said I'm really good at holding it together, even when I'm extremely wrecked. Yeah. Right. But and this is the thing. It's like I just go into work mode when I'm DJing. It doesn't matter what state I'm in. I just automatically go into work mode. And the first weekend I played at it was the second, because when Tiny had the Ideal band for a while. Yeah. And then they did the Ideal Tidy Weekend in 2014, and that was when I got booked. Basically, I was asked to play on the Friday as well in the foyer, playing in the shit disco bit, where we'd be playing 80 songs and stuff.
I've seen the video, mate. Oh.
Well, this is the thing, it's like, before that, it's like at the time, I was going on the Thursday night, and I thought, I'm going to need to be wrecked for this to be able to deal with this because obviously people are coming into the weekend and like checking in and stuff, right? So it's like I ended up getting absolutely. I won't say exactly what I did, but I took a lot of illegal things.
Yeah.
And
I've seen the video of you when you're dressed in like some sort of
I was dressed
outfit.
as a dragon. And I just like, so I got shit faced to that, and then it's like that's where you can see in videos and playing like Duran Duran with Reflex and stuff like that. But then it's like after that I just carried on, and the main set was the Saturday night in the Third Arena.
Yeah.
And I'd not slept. I was in an absolute state, but I somehow I readied myself to play my set.
Yeah.
And I got on, started playing my set. I've got a recording of it as well, and it's like I honestly can't remember much about that set. I just remember playing one of my own tracks in it, like because it was the Hard House version of Clouds Above that I did.
Camp Collective.
Yeah, the Camp Collective one.
Love Camp Collective.
And the thing is, we did that for comedy value more than anything, but that seemed to be because we just. I remember when me and James thought of doing that. We were just like, you know what, that'd actually really work, and we could probably make people dance to it.
I love the riff on it as well.
Yeah, but it's that's like but I played that, and I just remember playing that like sort of 40 minutes into my set. And that was the bit where I sort of like woke up properly a bit because I'd just gone in autopilot. I just heard people cheering when it was coming in, like I'd just played The Dawn. And it's like, and when I started playing, there was like 20 people in the room. By that point, it was 200.
Yeah.
And then it was just like the rest of the set is like. I remember coming off the decks and there's people coming to me going, "That was the best set you've played in fucking months," and I'm just like. I'm glad you can remember.
I know, it wasn't even me.
I'm glad you can remember because I can't. And the daft thing is, a couple of people got videos of me DJing.
Yeah.
And when you see the videos, I look fine. When you see the photos, I look fucking horrific. And it's like, I remember like one of them was actually on the official photos as well. Fantastic. And it's like, and somebody sent me a copy of the photo the other day actually. And it's like, I've not seen for years. And it's just
why don't you send me it, right? And I'll drop it in right now.
I'll say. In fact, I'll send you when I get.
Yeah, no, send me it, and I'll put it in, and you can have a look at the state of Dave. I've seen you in some states.
But, well, the thing is, like, I remember Sam. I saw Sam Townend the next week after the Weekender, and he said to me, that is the worst photo I've ever seen from a Weekender. And bearing in mind, he's obviously been to every single one. I'm just like,
yeah.
Impressive.
I'll take that award.
But yeah, it's like that was the main one. I do have really good memories of that weekend. There was some funny videos for it because by the Sunday night, I'd still not slept. I was just an absolute disgrace.
How long recovery time do you have after a weekender?
After the weekenders, the first one I went to, right, I went into work on the Tuesday, which was a big mistake because I ended up getting sent home because I couldn't. At the time, it's like I'd been dancing all weekend, and this is the point where I just turned 31, so I'm getting old. And, it's like, and I couldn't walk. They had to send me home. Right, so the next year when we did it, I just thought, you know what, I'm booking the whole week off.
Yeah. And
I booked the whole week off, and if you've stayed up all weekend, it does take a few days.
Yeah.
And even if you haven't stayed up all weekend, it can take a few days because it's like this year, I got like 3 hours sleep for the whole weekend. I don't sleep a lot anyway, so 3 hours sleep for me, like when I've been on it all weekend, is actually not too bad.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas I sleep 2 hours on a normal night, and. This year, to be fair, most people came home with COVID. Everyone who seemed to be in contact with me had COVID that weekend. I felt like I had a bit of a cold. It might have been COVID for all I know.
Yeah.
Right, but yeah, it took me until Friday to recover. you do need to book decent recovery time for a tiny weekend because it's a long weekend. Yeah.
Rough.
Yeah. It's like I remember on the Monday morning, it's like I was going around people's chalets with a water pistol, like waking people up.
Right, we're just going to end this section now. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Back again for section 2 of the podcast. This one is questions from everybody. If you wanna write in questions, just it's time to refresh on all social medias. Just send a message on there. You can write in anything because what I'm about to ask right now is random, but it is what it is, I suppose. So, Dave, I don't know if you've watched any of the episodes, but sometimes it's very music related, other times it's not.
No worries.
So, this one is Alright Mara. Yeah, so it's obviously a white Evener. Absolutely smashing it with the podcast, mate. I'm writing to you because you said ask me anything, so here goes. What's your opinion on people walking into your house? I don't just mean anyone. I'm on about family and close friends just rocking up and letting themselves in. This was never a thing in my house growing up. If we had guests, we'd have planned it in advance since getting with my other half. I find this happening loads. I like my afternoon naps or to pull one off on a Friday after work. But it's getting ridiculous, people walking in my house. My girlfriend's mum came in last Friday whilst I was napping on the sofa, and I thought it was someone breaking in. She nearly got fucking throat punched. Before you say, just lock your door, problem solved, I've always had an open door whilst in my house, and I shouldn't need to lock my... Or he put lick my doors, he meant lock. Shouldn't need to lock my doors before, so it wasn't a problem. Come on, Mara, tell me you're on my side here. And that's from Lewis.
Yeah, I don't like people walking in my house either.
I don't.
But I did... Where I grew up in Dewsbury, it was, let's just say it was one of those sort of like poor areas where people just like walking in and out of your house. Right, it never happened in our house, but it always happened to my aunties and people like that. So
in where I grew up on a council estate. It was like your neighbours would just walk in. And like, hey, have you got this? I'm like, that was normalised for me.
I grew up on a pretty shitty council estate as well, right? So it's like, I know it's like and
the norm, isn't it?
It just seems to be the norm in a lot of places like that. Cause I grew up in somewhere where you talk about the single mum thing, right? Where people just think it's a meme, where the single mum who feeds them kids on Space Raider butties, and like, I saw people I know grow up on Space Raider butties so the mum could go to the pub.
Yeah, I've seen some bad shit. I've seen like the kids like get fucking Tesco's own pot noodles while the mum like scraped together as much as she could to go out on the town, and it's just been left, and it's not nice. Yeah. So if you want my opinion on that, my opinion is I agree with you because I don't like it when people do it at my house. So. But obviously, growing up, it was a different story. But in my house, I like to have like a anyone's welcome policy to my house. Just please let me know you're coming in advance.
Yeah.
Because I could be asleep on the sofa. Probably not pulling one off because I've got my kid in that house, and you know, like he's constantly wanting attention. So I don't have the spare time to do that nowadays.
Don't have time for a danger wank.
No, not nowadays, anyways. So yeah, that's if you want an answer. I'm entirely on your side, Lewis. So our next question is, afternoon, Brad, I've got a question. Is there a track out there that you want to remix and haven't for whatever reason? And that's from Ben.
Oh, God, there's loads.
Go on, Dave. What have you...
There's absolutely loads. But
no, but there's like, one. You need one of you.
I can't think of just one because...
I bet you'd be dead cheesy.
There's some cheesy one, but it's like... The thing is with remixing stuff, it's like these days, somebody else is going to think of it. I think one I've always wanted to do is Urban Cookie Collective for Keep a Secret.
Right,
because that's just always been one of my favourite tracks. It's gay as fuck, but it's...
I love it.
It reminds me of being a kid.
If I had to pick one, what would it be? I'd love to do a proper official remix of Pretty Green Eyes. I know it's dead generic, but like I'd love for Ultra B to come back, and it's not even just for me to remix it, to come and just say, right, we're going to celebrate 20 years since the release or something like that.
Yeah, because it is 20 years.
It is 20 years, yeah. And just say we're going to do all dedicated to different styles, and then I'd love to just go, there's a bounce remix of it.
Yeah.
I know there has been loads done, but yeah, officially, I'd love to remix that. That's a bit generic.
I've always loved that song though.
Yeah.
I've always loved that song.
It would either be that, or I would like... I know this is proper random, but like I'd love to do something like Groove Jet, like... It's like
somebody's just done a really good like hard trance version of that.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Like I'd love to officially remix that and like incorporate all the things.
Yeah, I think it was Charlie Bosch did it with Adam Taylor because they call themselves Chip Shop Boys. Right, but yeah, somebody's just done that and it's actually really good. because I played it on Last Backdoor Bangers actually.
Class. I love them mixes, by the way. Next one is... Let me see. Sorry about this. Oh, if you could work with any vocalist, money is not an object, who would it be? And I haven't put a name against that one, I'm sorry. Money's not object. I've got like a list of that I would love to work with.
The two that I'd love to work with are dead.
Yeah, no, okay. Who would you love to work with? It's there's no objection to say of who it could be.
If it's right, if I can pick a dead one,
yeah,
without any sound like matter of fact about it, it's like pick Louise Dean. She sang Shiva Freedom,
right?
Like, and I remember it's like she literally sang on two records before she died, and it's like, but her vocals are incredible, and it's like, and every time I hear the two songs she did Shiva, Work It Out, and Freedom, it's like every time I listen to her song, it's like she was really young as well. She just had like this big, powerful voice, and it's like, and you can imagine if she'd lived and she'd still been going, she'd have sung on some incredible records, and it's like I would love to have worked with her. I did actually do a bootleg of one of the tracks, God knows how many years ago, and it's like, oh, her vocals just touch me.
If I could work with vocalists, you might notice a theme, but I'd love to work with like Avril Lavigne. I just think I know it's cheesy, but come on, Dave, it's good.
I don't like her voice.
I love it. Hayley Williams from Paramore, just because when she jumped over and started doing the EDM stuff, like with that Stay the Night with Zed, I thought that...
Yeah, she's actually got some decent... She has actually got decent vocals, so it's like she's good. She's really good for dance records, and I did actually say her because I played on the last Cheeky show I played Alex's mix of Paramore Into You, and I've always said that her vocals just seem to work on dance tracks.
Yeah, fantastic. And the last one would be, I know I've just mentioned fucking Groove Jet, but Sophie Ellis-Bextor. I think she's just got I've got a guilty pleasure for her, and it's class.
I actually sort of saw like, right, she was supporting Steps when me and Ryan went to see her. I'm not asked to say Steps are the best pop band in the world.
Yeah.
Right, but she was supporting Steps when me and Ryan went to see her before Christmas. And she's still got it. She's still a really good singer.
I watched the Kitchen Sessions during lockdown.
She made a whole album off the back of that, didn't she?
Yeah, I love that Crying at the Discotheque. Oh, yeah, love it. Yeah, as you can tell. Right, I'm just going to tie this one up today, if that's all right, because we had an amazing first section that went on forever, and I don't want to bore people with these long podcasts because I've had them complaints. Do you know something? If it's a good podcast, it should be going on for a long time.
Come on, half of you watch Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's go on to like 3.5 hours, like every 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, it's like, ridiculous.
But the thing is, I like that because it's like it just does what we're doing now. We're having a conversation. It's like, and
you get to the deep stuff, don't you?
If we get loads in, it's like there's loads more we could have talked about today. So it's like,
should we make it a 2-parter? I've got a little thing with Patreon that I'm doing. I'm going to be doing. It's going to be It's Time to Refresh After Hours. Yeah. So it's going to be 2 guests. Yeah. One and there's going to be beers out. So I'll definitely get you up to mine.
I'm up for that.
And then you can go for 3 hours, and you can say whatever you want because it's behind a paywall. Yeah. And you can sign up now. By the way, I'm just going to plug it. Yeah, sign up now to Patreon. We've got lots of good stuff coming. And Patreon.com. It's time to refresh. Right. Excellent. So, is there anything? Oh, before we move on as well, I'm going to ask you. You're getting the electric chair because of something you've wrote online, and it's got you banned because you're a controversial figure. It's the only thing you get banned for. You're a lovely guy. You wouldn't murder anybody, I don't think. So yeah, you're getting the electric chair because of some of your views that you put out online. What's the last meal you're having?
What's the last meal I'm having? Ooh, that's a hard one.
Well,
I really don't know. I think I'd have to have a full-on like steak and all the fucking dreams.
I don't know what is going on here. Everyone who says this thing, they go for the steak. What is going on?
Right, oh, it'd have to be Ryan Walker's Mrs. Natalie. Right, it'd have to be one of her paellas.
Lovely.
She's an amazing cook. It's like her food is literally Instagram food, but it's not even trying to be Instagram food. She just makes it look good. So.
Right, I just want to tie this episode up by saying thank you for coming on, and where can people find you?
No worries. You can find me on SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. It's like DJ General Bows. All my music is on SoundCloud, Mixcloud, and YouTube. I do obviously Backdoor Bangers, so don't do it often anymore because I'm focusing on doing the Cheeky Show podcast, which is where you get to hear me properly. Yeah. Right, so I'm doing that every month. That goes out of the second Thursday of every month. Yeah. And like I said, so SoundCloud, Mixcloud, YouTube. And if you want to find me on Facebook, just posting random shit and being a knob, right, then find me on Facebook.
Excellent. I just want to say thank you to everyone for listening. And share with your mates as well, because as I say, the more people we reach, the bigger it gets, the more fun we get to have. Yeah. And we're looking at starting these after hours episodes very soon, which hopefully we'll get Dave involved. Yeah, it's going to be good. Thanks for listening, everyone. It's been a pleasure.
See ya.
See ya.